Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to our latest webcast that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly as part of our Roadmap to Recovery series. And I'm joined today by Brian Young from G Adventures, by Derek Jones from Dare Touristique in Kuoni. We can see that from your great new backdrop, Derek. And also by Gemma Antrobus, who is joining us from Haslemere Travel and also ATO Specialist Agents. So welcome all of you. I brought you together because last night we had the news from Grant Shapps that many destinations were being removed from the red list. And so I think there's only 7 now still on that red list. And I guess let's come to you first, Derek, as a long haul specialist, although I know we're going to come on and talk about your expansion in short haul, but as a long haul specialist, what you're known for, that must have been pretty good news.
Yeah, fabulous news. I mean, it felt to us as though this was the sort of the switch. You know, travel for us is now back on. There's no two ways about it, and we can see that already in demand. We'd already seen, for us, Maldives and Mauritius had already come off the red list. So in a way, we'd had a bit of a run up to this, and it was pretty well trailed as well. So I think for those of us in the travel industry that were following sort of the evolution of events, we pretty much knew that this was coming. So maybe not the big fanfare of previous announcements, because it almost felt as though this was the last big one that we needed to get under our belt in order to be able to push on with what we were already planning to do. But absolutely, in terms of moving the industry forward, moving the sector forward, it is a very important announcement. It almost feels as though this was the last big hurdle we needed to get over. There are still some things we still need, and I'm sure we'll go on to talk about those. But yeah, by way of introduction, I think very, very good news.
Yeah, and you said you were expecting it. Were there any surprises for you? Because obviously there are still 7 destinations that didn't make it, and there have been lots of comment, haven't there, around why didn't some of those, because their profile actually is similar to ones that did come off. So was there any surprises for you, Derek? And then I'll come on to ask Brian.
Well, I mean, what we've all learned through this process is not to try and second guess what the government are going to do. So yeah, there was bound to be something that didn't make sense. There was bound to be something that didn't happen. I mean, even the other part of the announcement was about visitors to the UK and what vaccinations would be acceptable. And just 2 weeks ago, people who'd been double vaccinated in India for some reason would not be allowed into the UK without quarantine. And then yesterday, people who've been double vaccinated in India can be welcomed into the UK. There's no logic or rationale for why that should have changed in 2 weeks, but it did. So I don't know. Ours is not to question why anymore, is it? I think we learned that quite a long time ago. We'll just take what we get, and if it's moving in the right direction, that's positive news.
That's a good thing. All right, and we'll come back and talk about what you've done as a result. But Brian, for you, I know you go to lots of parts of the world, but places like Peru and Ecuador that didn't make the list, they're quite important for your program, aren't they? So was it a bit bittersweet or overall?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, a bit like Derek, you never guess what this government's going to do in terms of announcements. So I take what we get, to be honest with you. It opens up quite a few destinations for us. Obviously, even though a number of those destinations have come off of the red list, there's still at the other end border restrictions that we've still got to work through. So it's positive in one respect. There's still work to be done in terms of like different destinations and their requirement of people to come in, but it's a step in the right direction. That's the most important bit for me. And yeah, no, I mean, Peru and Ecuador was a bit of a shock for me, I must admit. I thought, I actually still don't understand why they're, where they are, but then a lot has moved in a short space of time. So I have to hold on to the positive that, they will come eventually at some point. I don't think, they're just going to be left out in the wilderness. And it's difficult for us because sometimes I look at it, we have a global business and I've got Americans, Canadians that are allowed to just get on a plane and go. There are no red lists and such like. So Peru is open for us as an organisation and we're selling well into it. It's just our marketplace, out of the UK now is the last bit of that jigsaw for us. So, and trying to explain that to our North American friends sometimes is, you can't explain it. So they just see it as lunacy in some respects, but it is a good positive step. I mean, there are other bits around the testing, which I'm sure we'll talk to, but I think we all knew because rumours started at literally just over a week ago. So yeah, no, I take everything that we get as positive. It's good news. it starts to get our industry moving, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Gemma almost didn't make it today because she's so busy. Tell me that you're being called by clients all the time. Is this bookings, Gemma, or is it more inquiries? I mean, picking up on what Brian said there, because of course it's not clear cut though, is it? I mean, the red list is obviously now shorter, but you've still got the problems of getting into destinations in many respects. So what are your customers saying?
I think it's a culmination of a number of things of why we're all busier now than ever. You know, obviously we're still very stretched. We're not back to staffing levels that we were pre-COVID. The work involved in getting people away and the questions that you have to answer to even get them on that flight, I mean, is just beyond insane. So there's all of that extra work. And then, of course, there are the new inquiries and the people that want to book. You know, we still have clients even today calling up going, is it too late for October half term? Well, no, it's not, but you've just got to be realistic about how flexible you can be and your budget. So yes, a lot of questions. We had a lot of questions yesterday about South Africa. Clients of ours that regularly travel down, particularly for Christmas, were ahead of the game and saying, can we hold flights? Can we start looking at it now? Which was really good. So yeah, there was a lot of flurry for South Africa first thing this morning, but so it's busy. But I think there's still, I think confidence is coming up. It's absolutely what we needed to see. But again, I think it's going to take a time for people to understand everything about these countries, the fact that the entry criteria is different for every single country. We don't even know yet what you have to do to get into South Africa, for example. Monday is D-Day. And, it's the same thing. America, we were told November's coming for, entry into the States, but we still have no idea what that means. Yeah. So, we still have so many what ifs. And I felt very happy last night when I heard this, that relief. But I didn't feel elated, like this is the savior or whatever, because there's so much hard work to do. And I think we're all so exhausted that this comes after such a long period of time of just being absolutely knackered. And we know that there's so much more hard work ahead of us, which none of us mind at all. But it's just the, head down today, let's understand what this really means. Let's try and communicate clearly to our clients and take the inquiries as they come. Manage people's expectations.
What you really needed was to come on a Travel Weekly webcast then, Gemma, when you got all that.
I'll always have time for you, Lisa.
Oh, bless you. Derek, obviously this week as well, we heard the news about the FCDO advice that they're saying they're hoping to align that better. Is that important? Is that presumably another good step for you? Has it been a problem?
Yeah, it's been a huge problem. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, Maldives is hugely important for us, and we were in the bizarre position 2 weeks ago where Maldives had come off the red list. The news was all positive. We were telling our customers that they'd be able to travel, and then the FCDO didn't update their advice to match. So technically, still advising against all but essential travel. And we'd spent a week literally talking to lawyers about creating a disclaimer that our customers. A waiver that our customers could sign to say that they were happy to travel against Foreign Office advice. We'd sourced insurance companies that were prepared to insure them. We put a huge effort in the space of 4 days to create an environment where our customers could travel to the Maldives. And just as we had it all signed off and finished, the government advised that it was now okay again. So hugely frustrating.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. But
Did you lose me?
It's still. I lost you for a second there, but we got you. But yeah, so still though positive now that they're going to align things better. All right, let's just pick up on the something we were hoping to hear, which was around the testing, the day 2 testing, the PCR testing. Some people were obviously hoping that would be in yesterday's announcement. I heard Grant Shapps this morning still saying he hopes to have something on that before half term, but of course there is a delay on what they're going to announce because there seems to be some concern about how they're going to prove that people have done this lateral flow test and whether they might have to do it on a Zoom call or take a photo or take a video of them doing it. And so that's all still up in the air, Brian. And is that still, is that a problem for you guys?
I don't know if it is a problem from a customer point of view, because it's just more confusion added to the mix of, right, I've got to fill out a passenger locator form. Okay, I don't have to now do a test in resort to get back if I'm fully vaccinated. But there's still that, is it a PCR test? I've got to pay that much money for it, or is it this? And even if it changes to that, what is that? Because to your point, we've heard they've got to take a video of themselves, send that in. So all these things just create anxiety for a consumer when they're trying to plan just to go away on holiday. And having just been away recently, you know, and we're in the travel industry, just the faff of filling out the forms and then, we've got to get down to, you know, get a test in a local pharmacy before we get on the plane to come back, and then, you know, the other tests and such like. So I think that's the bit that we need, is clarity, so that at least the customer knows very clearly, right, this is exactly what needs to be done.
And do you have an inkling at all, as you are in the travel industry, do you have an inkling which way they're going to go? I know there's possibly a delay because whatever they choose has then got to align with the passenger locator form, which is going to have to be updated. So, but do you have any indication of what they're going to be expecting?
The only thing is what I'm hearing in the papers, basically,
right.
And what government, you know, he said today that yes, we're likely to move to, you know, lateral flow test. We're going to try and get it in, you know, in time for half term. The problem is I'm sure they know, you know, they've just announced like a massive change of the red list. They know and been talking about this for a while. Why they can't just put, you know, very clear timeline on it, explain to customers, right, this is exactly what needs to be done. It's not that hard. I mean, it's PCR test or it's lateral flow. And if you do lateral flow, this is what you need to do once you've done it. So I just don't understand why it takes so much time. And of course, the problem being is the customers waiting to book for half term, are caught in that limbo of, well, is it PCR or isn't it PCR? What is it?
And I'd love to know, Gemma, what are customers doing then in that respect? Because are they just saying, well, I'll assume it's going to check? I mean, are they booking?
PCR all the way, because at the moment, I mean, for many, you know, many of our clients have private school holidays. They start this next Friday. So we're a week away from half term. There's no point in waiting because it'll take a few days to arrive anyway. Not that you need to take them with you, but people like to know that they're there, don't they? They don't want something arriving while they're on the other side of the world. So I've just said to them, if we didn't hear this week, order a PCR test. And you can get those for now, £43 from Randox or similar. Other test providers are available. Yeah. So, you know, and if we think about what the government have said about doing a photo or a video, that's kind of like the, I'm going to get the name wrong, cured tests that people were taking away with them. So, but those were about £30. So for a difference of a tenner and more faff, you know, is it better to do the PCR test and no, you definitely don't have it? I mean, unless they slash these lateral flow tests to about £10, is it really worth, you know, it's going to be a client's choice which way they decide to go based on the faff of a lateral flow test and a video or a photo, because half of my clients that are elderly would not have a clue, but they could probably just about get around doing a test or going to a clinic and having a test. So it's just ridiculous. I'm sure he must know that half term starts soon, or perhaps he doesn't have a clue when his kids are on half term. But you know, if it comes in, it will come in for that last week of October half term. Certainly not for next Friday, or it will be very last minute, and people will be already ready to travel and will have already purchased their PCR test. So, you know, I don't really see this as being a big thing anymore. We can get PCRs quite inexpensively.
Gemma, at the time, it was the pre-departure test that was the real obstacle.
That was the real, for my clients it was, absolutely. So this PCR, you know, as I talk to them quite practically, you know, all you really need to have is the code that says you've bought it. Nobody's checking up on you. We know this in the industry. We know that no one is checking up on whether you've actually taken it and what your result is. So, you know, you just need that code to be able to put on your lateral flow, to put on your, so many acronyms, to put on your PLF form when you come back. And
okay, Derek, you've obviously got agents as well. What are they telling your customers? Is it similar to Gemma, or how are you approaching it?
Yeah, I mean, really, right now there's no alternative. I think the only sensible advice we can give whilst we're waiting for the government to clarify the position is to take pre-book a PCR test. I mean, that the PCR test will trump a lateral flow test. So to that extent, that's the only advice that we can give.
Yeah. Brian, what have you done as a result of the red list being slashed? Is it sort of meant you can now really go out, talk to agents, up your marketing, really try and get some business coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a very fortunate position at G Adventures because of our global reach as a business. So we've had a number of countries operating, tours operating. As you know, we'll have operated like 1,000 odd trips since we started up back in the last lockdown. So for us, as things came off the list, we were able to get going immediately because we'd already got tours operating in those destinations.
Yeah.
So we haven't got that operational ramp up that some businesses will have to do. So that's great because it means we can immediately get onto our marketing and immediately start pushing out offers and getting our travel agent fraternity aware of what we've got, the tours that are operating, etc. So I think we've been gearing up for that for quite a while. So for us, it's that next step actually is quite quick. But we've had those plans in play, like I say, for a while. So yeah, and what we've noticed, the minute something is available for people to travel to, and we've had tours operating, it just goes at that point. The demand is there.
Yeah. And have you had more conversations with agents today, for example, or have you heard from them? Are they asking you which tours are available, or how's that worked?
So yeah, the sales team been on the phones, obviously, with all of our agents. So what we're trying to do overnight is understand, okay, right, what does this actually mean? What product does it actually bring back on sale that we're already operating around the world for the UK market? And then pump those tours out to our travel agent partners. It's a big awareness campaign now of the fact that, right, we've now got all these extra tours on sale. So they're running. So that's the most important bit for us, is not just the awareness of, okay, look, this destination's in play. These are the tours. For us, it's actually this destination's now in play and we already have these tours. So you can start selling immediately for departures to depart fairly quickly as well.
Yeah. Derek, what you missed there was Brian was saying, as a global business, a lot of his tours are already up and running. So he hasn't had quite the same operational ramp up. And I know you said you'd already got Maldives and things already working, but what's it meant for you in terms of operationally and maybe communications to agents or to your customers? What have you sort of instigated straight away?
I think the bit that's easy to miss in all of this is that we talked a lot earlier in this call about the rules for coming back into the UK and how they've been updated. But remember, that's just one part of the equation. We've got 90 destinations, and each of those 90 destinations have got their own rules about what you need to do to get into that destination. So we've got a whole new part of our business now that didn't used to exist, which is the sort of the pre-departure, we call it the can travel conversation. So everybody that is going to travel in the next 2 weeks has to have a call out, and it's a proper piece of work. We have to go through all the paperwork, all of the detail. So that's an additional piece of work in an environment where we've cut staff, we've taken headcount out, we're running lean, but we've got more to do. We've still got some destinations that we're cancelling on imminent departures. So the net effect of all of this is that we've got more than double the workload, and we've got half the number of staff that we had at the start of this crisis. And I was saying when I'm sure I got cut off, this is now the biggest challenge of the whole crisis. The rebuild is the hardest bit of this, because closing everything down was horrible, but actually relatively easy. You knew what you had to do. Once it was done, and then you could hibernate and wait. The recovery phase is really difficult to manage, and for agents and reputable tour operators that are all about delivering great customer service, you can't compromise. So you have to have those conversations. You have to make sure your customers know what to expect. You have to follow up when they come home to make sure everything was okay. And you're doing that on top of now the demand side of the business coming through. So, back up to 80, 90, 100% of previous normal demand. So you're dealing with new business, new bookings, but you've still got all of this on top. And it's going to take some time for all of that to play through. But for now, I love it. It's the best challenge. I've been dying for this challenge for months and months and months. I love having it, but it is a challenge for all of us, I think.
No, I'd agree. I mean, that's why we've been recruiting as well. Like mad to try and backfill to that point, is the amount of work that it evolves with our customers. You have to have the staff in play to be able to cope with it as well.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because actually a lot of suppliers that I've spoken to are now trying to get some staff back. A lot of them are struggling to get the right kind of people who've got the experience, or because they may have gone into other industries, and that is a big issue. I literally just got off the phone to someone who said the same. Is that so, Derek? Are you recruiting now, or you're not quite there yet, or what's your situation?
No, we're recruiting now. I mean, we don't have all of our stores open. We've still got another 14 stores to still open. They'll all be open now by the end of November. But right now we don't have staffing for all of those stores, so we're going to need to go out and recruit. I mean, we have been thankfully very successful at keeping in touch with people that were made redundant. You know, we have a lot of loyalty in our business. I think everybody knows that, and a lot of people are very happy to come back to us. So that's a great place to start. But beyond that, yeah, we're in the recruitment. We're in the recruitment game, and we're out there trying to find the very best people again.
And what kind of numbers are you looking at, or is it not really about numbers? It's just, I guess, the right roles. But
yeah, I mean, at this point, we're talking 10, 20 immediate staff that we need on the retail sales side, and we're out actively recruiting. But it's not just that. I mean, our marketing team went from 20 to 6. And then suddenly knock on Dean's door and say, I need a turn of year campaign, and he says, well, I need a marketing manager. You know, it's not just customer facing. If we are now back on, then we need to put the resource back in place to deliver that. And of course, the challenge then, I'm sure everyone has it from a budget point of view, is we haven't had the revenue departing this year. Our financial year is to the end of January. So we don't have the revenue in this year, but now we're taking cost in this year, which is a challenge. So a lot of this is going to be back-ended. So there's going to be a lot of people scurrying around at the back end of this year, getting everything set up for what's hopefully going to be a sort of a normal-ish January, February. Yeah. But that's going to take some planning, I think.
Yeah, I want to talk about January and February in a minute. But Gemma, you've been pretty much running your business on your own, haven't you?
Still am.
Okay.
Still am.
So will you be able to... Will you be able to bring anyone back, or?
We have plans to, yes, but it won't be this month. And I was just listening to both Derek and Brian talking about marketing, and I'd had, the email communication to our clients sort of standby and ready to go last night, awaiting, the exact information. And when I went to sort of fill it all in this morning, I just took a pause on sending it, because I'm not ready to receive that level of demand. And like Derek was talking about delivering service, that is absolutely paramount to me. And it being just me, I cannot stretch myself too far. So I thought it can go out over the weekend. It will go out, obviously, but today is not the right day to suddenly receive an influx of calls that then want information over the weekend that is just impossible to obtain, especially when we still have so much information that we don't know. So, I'll be ready for it next week after the weekend. I've had a chance to catch up. But
this is how tough it is, though, because, of course, you want to send that email because you want to get bookings in, but you have to, it sounds like you've taken a very sensible approach, actually, because you can't compromise yourself, your service, which is you. So
yeah, absolutely. So it is that really hard line, and I know there'll be a lot of it's a very different position to be a travel agent that's owner, managed, run, than it is to be part of a large brand that has been able to, and I'm not, obviously this is not harboring any grudges against anyone, but has been able to get funding or extra money invested when some of us smallies haven't. So yeah, we're prepared for the hard slog. We're knackered, as I think I said earlier, but it will turn itself around. It will all come good. And we do what we do because we love it. And like Derek was saying, I love this buzz. I love today. And this, the excitement of the new inquiries and what can we get done and how quickly can I get that information? But yeah, we're all really stretched, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, just up to how many people are you roughly looking for? You said you're recruiting.
So we've recruited 14 already into our call centre. Yeah. And we're still recruiting. So looking for, probably another 10 more people into that. And then again, like Derek just said, it's the same thing as we get busier and trying to, look at our strategy of coming back. Then it's that dichotomy of when do you bring certain roles back into the business, and you have to balance that against, customer facing roles, which are really key, versus another role, and that's the difficulty. We have to balance up. It's like, do I bring someone back in marketing versus bringing people that are front facing, because there's no two ways about it, as everyone said here. Yes, we might have the tours up and running, but there's still a million questions coming in, irrespective of whether they can go or not. So that's going to be the difficult bit for everybody, I think, is that balance of coming back out of it, coping with the demand, as I'm hoping it will come eventually, but it's how do you build for that as well, and then where do you place that resource in which to cope, and where do you think it's best placed as well, So you might have to sacrifice in one area still and carry on that way. I know, unfortunately, we're all overworking in some respects on some areas, whilst trying to, you know, backfill here for the benefit of that. So it is a big old moving jigsaw constantly, but I'd much rather be in this position that we're in. You know, I know, and I get exactly what you're saying, like about being knackered, you know, because even though we've been in that hibernation period, we've all been working our socks off like there's no tomorrow. So I think we're all at that point of like really tired from it all. But at the same time, the beauty of it is you can now, I think we can put that marker in the sand. That has to now go behind us. We have to now start looking forward, and it's going to be hard work, but this is the challenge that we've been praying for like 20 months, is to get back to that, you know, hard work but great work at the same time.
Yeah, and just Derek, you said there was still quite a few challenges ahead, and I don't want to talk about too many negatives, because it is a positive step, as we've all said, but even on the news this morning there were question marks on whether the structures would be in place to cope with the sort of more people traveling. So I'm talking about, you know, the forms, that of course forms are digital, or the border force. And so, I mean, is that still a concern? That was certainly raised on the news this morning. The other one, of course, was, oh, if everybody starts traveling again, there'll be loads of variants of concern coming into the UK, and then we might go into another lockdown. And of course, travel is then seen as the, you know, it's the whipping boy again, isn't it? For, you know, I don't know what the alternative is, because we want to get traveling and people want to get traveling, but we'll also be under real scrutiny, won't we, if things get moving and certain things start going wrong, like massive queues at airports or more health scares. So is that concern you, Derek?
Yeah, inevitably. I mean, I think the whole infrastructure piece, border force and all the rest of it, I mean, in a way, it's a bit, it's a problem of its own making, isn't it? Because if you go back to the whole lateral flow test versus PCR test, I mean, really, the answer is no test. Like the answer is no PLF and no test on return. It's nonsensical. Like listening to Gemma talking about the fact it's not followed up, the fact that, you know, it's easy to fake a self-assessment and a video. I mean, if you just get someone else to do the test for you if you're worried about it. It's like it doesn't work. I'm not advising people to do that, but there's no point in doing it. So they should just accept that that's a pointless exercise and move away from it. If we're comfortable that the country is pretty much 90% double vaccinated, that's been hugely successful. There's absolutely no reason now why we need to continue with that testing. I am concerned that if we do, that the infrastructure isn't in place to deal with it, not with the volume of people that will be travelling.
And that will have that will you know, play out badly on you guys if you're selling holidays and you're saying, yes, it's back open and we've got this wonderful holiday, and then you're let down by that side of things. That could be a problem for you, couldn't it, Gemma?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, it could be, but I think again, I mean, I send out a document to clients when they're traveling, and it talks about all of the, you know, traveling post-COVID, and it, you know, one of the things I talk about on there is being patient. It's a different world that we live in now, and the amount of steps that you have to go through. And so I try and educate clients that whilst it will be as near to possible as the experience when they have their holiday as pre-COVID, that there are some things that are slightly different. And sometimes we do need to take a few deep breaths and be a little bit patient where other times we might not have been. And that there are always going to be isolated incidences, like we heard about the end of August when there was that weekend when there were 5-hour queues. The next day there were none. I got on a flight and came back from Greece about 2 days later, and I was off the plane and through the e-gates in 15 minutes. So it's all about putting it in perspective for clients. And, you know, we do just have to be realistic. If border force don't employ enough people, of course it's going to fall back on us, because we're classed as aviation obviously is the travel industry, because, you know, that's what everyone sees. But just, I guess it's having those lines of communication open with clients and just keep talking to them about it, and, you know, just asking them, be a little bit patient and
manage expectations.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, look, I'm conscious of time, but just before we go, Derek, you mentioned there that you were hoping that January and February could be normal. I mean, we do know some suppliers have kind of brought their peaks campaigns earlier based, you know, some of this news, because they want to get bookings in now. And I mean, maybe they can because they've got different structures, you're saying it's going to be up to the wire a little bit for you guys until you can get that release because of your financial year end. But do we think that, I'll ask you all really, are you expecting a bit of a flurry now, or do you think it will still be the sort of pattern where we get a really buoyant peaks? What do you think will happen now?
Well, we're going to do both, and we've already. I mean, we were in national press the last 2 weekends with a campaign called It's Playtime, which I think just was trying to capture the moment. I think we'll probably continue with that. It's pretty straightforward brand advertising, but instills confidence in our customers. We're running a social media campaign apologising to builders and architects and landscape gardeners because they're going to be out of work for a bit because everyone's going to spend their money on holidays instead.
Oh, that's brilliant. I didn't know that. That's brilliant.
So they deserve one too. So we're targeting them, but we're also planning a big turn of year campaign as well. I mean, there is a huge opportunity in front of us, not just for us as a brand, for the whole industry. I think there's not just in terms of the number of people traveling, but the shape of the industry. Businesses that sadly are no longer with us, those gaps are going to get filled. I think private equity are going to jump into the space. They're going to be picking over the bones. There's a massive opportunity, and fingers crossed, we are over the last big hurdle now, and now we can all start to get back into a normal planning cycle and get ready for January.
And before we let you go, Derek, your expansion in short haul, was that quite a strategic move? Because obviously long haul have been off or out of bounds for so long. Is that going to?
I'm not sure how long.
A short-term thing. I'm presuming that's like a long-term plan to go short haul as well as long haul.
Yeah, depending on that. I mean, I don't know when tactical turns into strategic. It's been tactical for 2 months, so it's been 20 months now. So it sort of started off tactical and ended up strategic. It just went on for so long, it became part of what we did. But now it's been interesting for us because it was born out of necessity, if I'm honest, because most of the rest of our program last summer wasn't available. But it's forced us to curate different product, to look at what our customers want in Europe, and we've just launched a Europe program with 50 new properties in it that we've never featured before, all of which have been individually selected and curated, and it's gone down brilliantly with our customer base. So out of adversity, I said to someone this morning, we're all 2 years older, but we're all about 10 years wiser now, aren't we? We know so much more now than we did at the start of this. So that's just one example, I think, of how we've evolved.
And Brian, what are you planning on? I know you've done something similar as well, and you're closer to home tours out of necessity, I'm sure. What are you planning in terms of the next few months and into the peaks?
So again, we've been looking at the same thing, looking at our business, saying if things change, then the market should come back our way, over a period of time. I still think, it's not going to be this sudden woof upward trajectory. I mean, I know I've already read in the papers and online, people quoting silly figures up since the announcement. I just don't see that, I just think these things don't materialize that quickly overnight. Customers, everything that we've just said on this call, customers still need to understand, well, if I want to go to Thailand, can I get to Thailand? Are they going to let me in? And if they do, so I take some of that with a pinch of salt, to be honest with you. I think it just takes a bit of time. Customers to decipher, okay, right, now I can go. When can I go? What do I need to do when I get there? So that has to work its way through. Then another positive announcement will come, around PCR or lateral flow test. So the market will start to come back because there is definitely, a big amount of pent up demand in my view. So our whole thing is looking forward to peaks. That's our big thing, is plan now for peaks. We know there's what's happened is now likely to make peaks even more successful. So we just have to plan to do the best that we can in that period and hope at the same time the market comes our way. You can't do much more than that, in my view. Is you just got to set yourself up for success, do everything that you can, to take the market as best you can. And if the market's there, then you're in a good space at that point, I think.
All right. Okay. Well, look, we're probably out of time. It's great to talk to you. I'm so grateful for you to come on so quickly after that announcement. Let's hope we get the date for the US. Obviously, I know that's really important. Gemma, you mentioned that earlier, and important for lots of people. And obviously, some clarification around the testing would be great as well. But for now, thank you so much to Brian from G Adventures, to Gemma from Haslemere Travel, and to Derek from Kuoni. Thank you all so much.